Oh man. Okay, so let's get right into this. So as usual, Nintendo just dropped some news while it's like 3 a.m. here in Hawaii and I'm sleeping, and I wake up to this flurry of just news and Nintendo Switchy goodness that I just have to get in before work and just see what all the updates are and see what's going on in the world. And yeah, we got the Nintendo Switch Pro in a sense. It's the Nintendo Switch OLED, and I wanted to just go over with you guys all of the technical specifications so we can just get that out of the way and then just have a brief discussion about our general thoughts and opinions about the new device and new Nintendo hardware. It's so rare that they just drop new hardware so casually, but I think it's going to be more of a common thing, so let's get into it. Okay, so kicking it off, like right in the trailer, they just show a new game and they're playing it on the new Switch LED, OLED, and I really am kind of bummed out about the name. I don't know if they should have gone with that. But yes, let's go over technical specs. We have a 7-inch OLED, and it's still 720p actually. They're gonna add a new wide adjustable stand, so it's way better when you prop it up on a table and you can actually use it on travel. So like when you go on the airplane, you know that little lunch tray that you get that folds down, you can actually prop it up now, and it reminds me of the hinge like in some other tech devices like from Microsoft. I think it was called like the Surface tablet or something like that. It looks like they took a few notes from Microsoft in making a really sturdy hinge, so hopefully like when you prop it up, it's not gonna be as wobbly and it doesn't break off like a twig. And I know that's for safety measures and for kids and whatnot, but that was just a really big oversight on Nintendo's part. So if you want to use the Switch on a table in handheld mode, you totally can now, and that looks way more stable. The Switch dock has now a few minor changes. It's like in a glorious modernized white round cornered build, and it actually has a built-in LAN port now. So in the back, if you look, we actually do lose one USB-A port where the you could actually plug in an adapter they sold, and now they're just going to include that LAN in the dock. So there you go. The upgraded base storage now is from 32 to 64, so it does help a little bit. Like any more memory that we can get, I really do appreciate, so thank you Nintendo for that. And yeah, that's about it. It wasn't a terribly long trailer. What they showed basically was just a lot of games that were being demoed that we know are coming out. And actually, just as a side note here, the Pokemon one that's coming out for Diamond and Pearl looks like it's a lot further in development, even though it was only a couple of seconds of footage. If you compared that to the old trailer and screenshots, oh my gosh, it's leaps and bounds better. So that was really nice to see. I wanted to go over a quick pros versus cons here that I noticed, and let's just start off with the pros. It's very nice for people that have like a meaning to upgrade, you know, if they wanted to go from their dying first generation Switches or even coming from a Switch Lite. I think this is a really massive upgrade and totally worth it. The screen is going to be a bit more natural with that OLED, and because it's 7 inches now, it's going to be wider, so you could hold it a little bit further from your face, and that might be more comfortable for some people that play in a handheld mode. I think games also will look by default a little bit more vibrant, so when you're playing Breath of the Wild, those colors in the sky and in the grass are going to just pop out so much more clean and natural now. So you're probably going to enjoy handheld mode a little bit more, and it might encourage you to play it a little bit more in handheld and on the go. But I'm personally more of a dock person anyway, so it doesn't really affect me. And that's really all the pros that I can think of besides the wider hinge that we just went over. It doesn't really seem like this was an entirely massive upgrade, and I want to get into that a little bit more. But real quick, I don't think there are many cons to this upgrade, but it does leave somewhat of a lukewarm impressions that I think that make it seem more unappealing than it really is. Like, if you were to think about the OLED panel and the decision to move to that from an LCD, the LCD panel can actually be a lot brighter and offer a lot more comfortable playing scenarios. So if you're in a very sunny or well-lit environment, you might get a lot of reflections that actually could be omitted by a brighter screen. So that's the only downside that I could see for now. And I don't know if it's up to most people to make the change just for the more natural, vibrant colors. That could be in contention because I feel like a lot of players play in dock mode anyway, unless they're coming strictly from a Switch Lite. So we'll see about that. And as for my sort of wrap up general impressions, I think when I first saw the trailer, my expectations are already pretty high because we were reading so much about the rumors of the mythical Switch Pro and all of the things that it's gonna have, from 4K gaming that's upres from 1080 to even a 1080p screen in the handheld mode, to all these newfangled things that would really bump it up to like all of the current gen hardware that we have now. But really, I think we should sort of tone it down and then take a more realistic approach to how we view what Nintendo just released here. There's been a lot of chip shortages. It's been hard to manufacture any kind of electronic device with a CPU in it these days. And that massive hardware leap isn't really in line with Nintendo's typical console midlife refresh. If we take a look at the DS lines, throughout the whole life of the DS, they've only made these little incremental upgrades that really I think we should have been expecting. And the sad thing is that we've been riding the hype train for so long that really made it hard to adjust to this trailer, I think. And that's why my general impressions were so lukewarm, because they were a bit tampered by that. But if we look at the DS line, it typically went from DS to DSi, and they gave you like a minor improvement with the hardware and even gave you a little camera. And it made the big jump from 2D to 3D in its life cycle. And even when the 3DS went to its halfway life cycle, it went from the 3DS to the new 3DS, and they decided to do an incremental improvement to the hardware by giving you better face tracking, a little bit processing power and stability for exclusive games. And those weren't all massive, but I think that they were definitely a little bit better than what we got here, though, because if you got exclusive games and stability on your current set of games in your game library, then that was just an immediate purchase pivot decision for people who wanted to play their games at a decent frame rate. And it's a little difficult to admit that that's actually kind of where we're finding ourselves with the Switch. We want our games to run better and smoother, because some games, they just chug the system, like Hyrule Warriors. You'll get single digit frame rates, and that's kind of crazy. As I kind of think about it more and more, and as I just kind of see like what people are saying online, you're gonna find a lot of polar opposites, of course, with such a drop like this from Nintendo. And it does remind me a lot of the PS Vita from Sony, and it just kind of affirms how good of a console that was for the time. It already had an OLED, it had solid controls and button input, it even had like front and back button functionality, and it even came with a camera. And all of these things are just like showing me that Sony had it right for so long already, even during the first generation of 3DS lines, that they really nailed what technology we needed hardware wise. Sadly, to the late Vita, we only had a couple of really banging titles in terms of software and video games for the library, but there's still a lot of great things, and there's a lot of great games, and the modding community has done a great job with the Vita, and it's even kind of making me want to pick up one and get a Slim and kind of recollect in that area. But yeah, I think we're sort of making a lot of parallels here to what Nintendo could have done in the past and what they're doing now, and just seeing what people think of that is really interesting. I am a first generation launch Switch model owner, so I don't think that even I would personally upgrade to this model unless my Switch suddenly exploded in the summer heat. If something really needed me to make an upgrade, I wouldn't go for a Switch Lite, or I wouldn't go to maybe even a Animal Crossing Switch. I would go to this OLED Switch if something were to go wrong with my current Switch. But because I play in dock mode so often, and because it works perfectly fine, I really honestly wish that they made an announcement on the Joy-Cons, because that seems to be their biggest hardware embellishment. They don't seem to have announced anything to have improved those controls for their Joy-Cons in the trailer, and maybe they did it, you know, under the covers, and they were just gonna give us the new Joy-Cons that work perfectly fine. But I think I'm kind of having high hopes for that and maybe might be let down, but we'll see once the actual hardware units get out for reveal and review, and we can only hope. But yeah, I think I'll be sticking with my normal Switch until as long as I possibly can, and or if a special Monster Hunter Rise model comes out, I think I might pick that up. That would be really sweet. Okay, so that basically wraps up all of the thoughts that I've had about what this reveal trailer was from Nintendo and what we could see coming out in October. It's going to be a really exciting fall season and even a holiday season for all the video games we're getting, and even the new consoles people might pick up, or you might pick up and play your new Metroid Dread on, or Super Mario Party. Mario Party Superstars. And that's going to be a ton of fun. So I can't wait for all of those titles to come out, for people to start playing with the new system and just learn more about like what Nintendo's plans are for the future. So I hope you guys are doing well and have a nice day. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. So yeah, ciao for now. Bye bye.